Hello, I'm back. Hopefully I'm back and hopefully don't have the same problem. I don't know what's happening with the technology. Literally all week, for everybody who knows me, this week or has been trying to access me for some of my courses, I've been having problems with technology, but hopefully all is good and I hope you're all back as well. So this is take 2 again of how to deal with being an empath, and I'm better if you're watching me for the first time. And the reason why I look all flustered is because this is take 2 of me going live, and the thing about going live is anything can happen. So and stuff has happened. So it's a good thing. I'm talking about stuff about lots of stuff to do with being an empath and how to be grounded, but mainly how to deal with it. So if you're there again, do say hey, hi and hello. I know I had a few people on Facebook and I had a few people on YouTube, so let me just go back to finding everybody. So again, if there is still technical problems, you must let me know, because it may be that I might have to abandon doing this, which would be really not cool, and I'll be most disappointed. So if you are there, do say hey, hi and hello. And what we did have on YouTube was Blue Breakout, Madova, Janine White, Renee, Alana, Heather. If you are still there, then say hello and hi. And again, here on Facebook, we have Amy and Claire and Jessica and Elizabeth. Again, a little better. Okay. Hi, Elizabeth. Happy birthday to you today. Oh, and by the way, happy birthday, or happy Father's Day to everybody who's also watching as well. Hello again, Jada. Hi, I'm back. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Again, what I'm going to do, because the last time this sort of happened, I just did it and the replay was fine. So I'm just going to do it, but hopefully it's going to be fine. So bear with me, guys. So we're going to be talking about how to deal with an empath. So firstly, I'd love to know from everybody what it means to be an empath in your eyes. So just to give you some heads up, I'm going to just sort of let you know basically some of the things, because one of my cats has decided to join the show as well. That was Confetti. He snuck in as I was trying to sort out the problem. So basically, I work with my spirit guides, and there's Confetti again. I cannot laugh. Everything that I had prepared has gone whoop. So you got to laugh at these things, you know. The cats were out, the dogs are out, the husband's out, my son's out, you know, and then it all goes wrong. I have a meltdown, my husband comes and fixes it, and then the cat sneaks in. Anyway, let's get serious, guys. We're talking about being empathic and how to deal with it. It's actually quite a serious subject. I'm here to basically empower everybody who thinks they're an empath and maybe knows an empath. If you do know an empath, make sure you share this. This is to teach you guys how to deal with being empathic, and it's actually a lot more simpler than perhaps you even realize or know, or perhaps some of the things that go floating around there. But it does take a change in how you think about things, really, which is perhaps not so easy to do, but can be done in just a moment. You know, sometimes the hill can look like it's really, really high to get up and over, but actually once you understand how to navigate it, it actually happens in a moment. So hopefully you might have your moment right now. If not, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you tips and tricks about how you can deal with being an empath so that you can start your journey. And I kind of want you to get excited if you are an empath, because I know if you are an empath, because that's my primary extrasensory ability. It's the one I was born with. It's the one that I was aware about from a very, very young age. Once I turned it to being something that wasn't anxiety building, something that, you know, that I didn't just go into a room or near people and I started to not know who I was, you know, where did I start and where did somebody else end, you know, picking up on the positive, but also when you're picking up on the negative, it can become very, very discombobulating. It can really affect your vibration, you know, whether you're in a low vibration or whether you're in a happy vibration. And quite often empaths can get stuck sometimes in the cycle of believing that they have this gift and somehow it's some sort of curse, and not knowing how to bob in and out, or to stay basically in a higher vibration. And it's all to do with who we are in our human aspect, and also just figuring out what being empathic means. So if you're an empath, you might have experienced certain things like, you can feel whether somebody's lying to you. You cannot watch things, on the television that are to do with suffering or pain. Why? Because actually you feel it, and it's just not pleasant. It's absolutely triggering. You're drawn to healing stuff. You're very, very creative. You will feel pretty much a crowd of a room. Lots of different things. You may also suffer with high anxiety, which is quite a common trait. A very, very common trait with people who are empathic, is that in a way it translates, because they're picking up on so many vibrations of energy, as that there's perhaps something wrong with you, and that you then can't manage or deal with things. Or why is it that I attract people that come and tell me stuff all the time and I never invited it? Or why is it that I attract narcissists? Or all of that myriad of different things. Well, hopefully we could talk about why, but also we can talk about how to deal with it and change it so that you're not scared anymore, that you're actually empowered, absolutely super empowered, and actually enjoy and realise and recognise that you actually have a beautiful gift, something that you must not be scared of, something that will change your life when you start to look at it and lift yourself in a high vibration to know just how wonderful it is. So I'm getting lots of comments already. Amy says, I am empathic, Bella. Or am I empathic, Bella? Well, you're very claircognizant, we both know that, but claircognizance and clairsentient, which is the other word, that's usually used, or the posher word, I should say, that's usually used as an empath, is they're very closely linked together, and sometimes, or more often than not, they come close together. So if you don't know what I mean, there are certain subsets, let's say, of being a psychic, and clairsentient, which is being empathic, is one of the subsets of that, and is actually the most common one. Because why? Because we're human beings that have a consciousness that is greatly connected to our emotions. It's what drives us, what leads us, what keeps us in survival mode. That's why it's the most common. But there are three others, which is claircognizance, which is to clear knowing. There is clairaudience, which is clear hearing, and then there's if I got it right with clairaudience, I had to think then for a second, and clairvoyance, which is clear sight as well. So we've got here, yes, Amy said that she's feeling the stuff that I've talked about. Jessica says that it's a blessing and a curse at times, but learning to reverse it so it can use to help others is what she's trying to do herself. Jessica says she's starting to cry. Totally start crying at Humane Society commercials. Yeah, I'm guilty of that one too. and that it can be very overwhelming. Yes, it can feel very, very overwhelming as well, particularly if you don't know what's going on, or particularly if you don't know how to bridge the gap between it affecting you in the way that it does affect people, so actually it doesn't affect you. And this is what today's talk is about. It's about teaching everybody, or getting you on the path to it not affecting you at all. So Natasha Kelly says, as a physician, I feel my patient's pain. Yes, greatly. People that work in Reiki, as a physician, as an osteopath, as a masseuse, people feel it the most. And actually, some people, when they work in that kind of field, they don't always have the consciousness of knowing that they feel that. And working hard to detach yourself, I would say here, in my teachings, I think it's about how you reframe it, because when we think about detaching ourselves, we see then that the energy that we're working with has then been problematic. But what I'm going to be talking about is actually how you view it very differently, so that you're not seeing it as something that you actually need to be scared of, so that you don't have to detach. In fact, I'd be telling you to actually do the opposite, which might at first sound a bit controversial, but bear with me because hopefully I make sense. But again, this is a discussion, guys. So Richard says, will I make my empathic vision film to bring an awareness to empaths? Well, that's the job of empaths in a way, because being a light worker, again, falls under those four categories. So not every light worker is an empath, but most people are. So, and what empaths' job here to do, if you want to look at it in a divine way, is to help people transcend away from fear, to actually lift themselves from a lower vibration, which is around fear and lack, and worry and anxiety, and move people to a place of a high vibration, which is about joy and love and positivity and clear intentions and things being much more abundant. Now, an empath's job is made much more difficult if they are in a low vibration, which is how most empaths start out, because they don't know. They didn't come with the rule book when you came in your human version. You know, you just knew that you could feel everything. You're like, oh God, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, how is this helping me? I'm going to tell you how and why it's helping you. Jada, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, says, I blocked myself mostly because sometimes I can't protect myself. Again, I'm going to teach everybody to not block themselves, because actually by blocking, you are telling the universe that you have something to block, that you're something that you're afraid of, that you're afraid of being impacted by something. And for those of you who understand how the law of attraction works, what we think about or worry about the most, positive or negative, we attract. Veronica says, I have lots of trouble being around more than a couple of people. It's very stressful to feel so many people. Again, very classic trait of being an empath. The one thing that people ask me all the time in the line of work that I do, particularly when I do one-to-one work, and sometimes during a day I will speak to a lot of people sometimes, it really depends on the kind of service that I'm mainly doing in that day. So for example, I do little mini video readings, little bite-sized ones, so that my service is affordable to everybody. But sometimes I can have a crazy day when I have a lot of people and I might be making 50 of those little mini videos. And some people say, well, how can you tap into so many different energies? And this is how. I'm going to tell you how, because of the way that my journey has gone, that actually I don't see people as energies anymore, or something that I need to be afraid of. And that's what we're going to talk about, how to do that today. And again, you might get it in a moment, and it might just be something that, you know, you have to transcend and do some work first to be able to feel comfortable in being able to do that. So we kind of know now what it feels like to be an empath, you know, and some people have it in smaller or bigger doses. And again, if you are empathic by nature, then you are clairsentient. It is one of your extrasensory abilities that we all are gifted with. It's one of the four which you can then use to develop into all four if you wanted to, and also then connect to your spirit guides, or develop it as much as you wanted to do. We all have the ability basically to do what I do. It's not, not for just a few. We all have it, but once you recognize you have this empathic trait, how do you use it to your advantage? Well, some of the basic things you can do, which you've all would have heard about, I'm going to go through because I don't want to ignore them, because they are basically tools that you can use to help yourself to see it as training wheels, things that you can do to help support yourself as you transcend up and over that hill, over that empathic hill, to the other side. Imagine it like a roller coaster. You go tick, 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 all the way up, and you get to the top, and it's like, whee! That's where I want you to be. I want you to get to the top and go, actually, I am not scared of being an empath anymore. It does not rule my life. I do not need to absorb the energy of other people. I know how to deal with it. I know how to control it. All is lovely, all is great in the world. And you can go down in that roller coaster feeling really super happy and whiz around everywhere. So, the first thing, right, the things you can do is accept that you have it. So acknowledge that you are empathic, and also acknowledge that it is quite common, and it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Far from it. Actually, you have a huge, huge gift that you're fully aware of, that you've been born much more consciously aware than other people, and your job here is to help raise other people's vibration. What a marvelous thing. So first you need to think about being empathic in that much positive way right now. Take away the negative dialogue that goes with it, no matter what your experiences have been, because trust me, I probably had it too. I might be happy and smiley today, but it was a journey, and I've had lots of different life experiences because of being an empathic, but it has all been for a purpose and a reason. Okay, things that you can do: meditate. I always go on about meditation, guys. This would be no different. For many different reasons, it changes the function of how your brain is wired. It reduces the fear receptors, which anxiety, which can be triggered very much by your empathicness will interfere with. So at a cognitive place, meditation or sometimes Reiki will also help to do that, whether you get Reiki healing or if you do it on your own as well. You can do some of the psychic protection thing, but I'm going to cut, and I've got a video on psychic protection which some of you would have seen already. Do watch that. It talks about all the traditional things, mirrors and bubbles. Those are really, really good tools, again, to help you on the training ground, but I'm going to take this one step further. I'm going to say, try that at first, in certain situations with people, but now I want you to advance in that. I want you to go beyond looking at yourself being psychically attacked by people, and I want you to reframe it so that you're not afraid to block or detach or to put bubbles around you. I'm going to teach you to do something more, but you have to be ready. And that's why I mention the psychic protection tools, because you might not be ready just yet, and that's fine. That's fine. Some of us like to take big steps and some of us like to take little baby steps. That is fine too. I think you need to get used to the word, not mine. It's a great thing, because again, when you're empathic, sometimes you don't know where you begin and somebody else ends. The trouble that most empaths have is they don't know who they are. They have a problem with self, and that's why meditation in the very early stages is super important, because you get to quieten your mind, you get to really understand what you are, who you are, how you feel, what you like and what you don't like. The more you're doing and spending that time with yourself, hence why a lot of empaths like to have solitude. One, so they're not taking in the energy, but also so that they can find themselves, to ground themselves and to identify who is them. So that when you're around other people and you're picking up their energy, you can clearly say, not mine. That is someone else's. Because why? Because I know who I am and what my feelings are. So not mine should become part of your vocabulary as well. So, Annette says, I'm feeling it more with my new job. It's really negative energy. I protect myself, but I don't feel it's enough. I'm going to teach you guys not to protect it anymore. Again, you can use it and it will help, but I'm going to take this one step further. Jessica says, it's so true, and out of nowhere your energy can feel so drained. Yes, I completely understand. So, the first rule, like I said, acknowledge it, but you also have to learn to identify who you are. Who are you? How well do you really know yourself? And I know we can all say here, oh yes, I know myself really, really well, but as an empath, if you're honest, you'll know and you'll recognise that sometimes you don't know. You'll sit there and go, why am I feeling this way? I have no idea why I'm feeling this way. Is this my energy? And you know it's not your energy, but then you take it in as yours. And if that energy does happen to be negative, then it impacts you in a negative way. So learn to identify that when you do feel suddenly, whether you're in a crowd of people or even on your own, you suddenly feel something from whatever it is, learn to identify when it's not yours. Once you do that, you'll find that there's the less of you feeling that will happen. That's why a lot of people struggle with the kind of not knowing where you begin and where somebody else, ends. The other thing that you need to do after you've done those very two simple things, which is acknowledge you have it, and then spend some time, whether it's meditating, and how you meditate is up to you. You don't have to do any fancy, you can just listen to music, you can just have a bath and spend 5 minutes in a bath. Just know who you are and learn to say not mine. This is the big important one that empaths really struggle doing. And I know this personally, and sometimes I'm still guilty of doing it, is boundaries, guys. Boundaries are an empath's biggest issue. And this is why you've got to learn sometimes to say no to somebody or to people in order to say yes to yourself. Because it is in your nature to want to see other people happy, to want to care, to want to nurture. But sometimes it comes at the expense of you. But sometimes saying no is actually right for the other person, but also particularly important for you. So boundaries, when you're an empath, I would say here, is rule number one hugely. All those little techniques that we've talked about just briefly before this, but it's in my other video when on cycle protection, those are good for moments. But the work that you need to do is on your own personal boundaries of knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no, to say yes to yourself. Basically, you need to, so I'm going to give you some scenarios basically to kind of help you understand kind of what it is that I'm trying to grasp. So I have two things. So many years ago, I was in a relationship with somebody, you know, we've all got that story, with somebody who wasn't very good, well, that one, and they really wasn't. And they actually lived in another country. I won't mention the country because what I've got to say might make it sound bad, but anyway, it's not bad at all. But my experience because of that person and the experience that I had with that person in that other country, now that I'm, you know, past that, and even though I'm in a higher vibration from it, that experience is very triggering for me to bring me actually into a low vibration. So the first thing you need to know that with boundaries is know your trigger points, and also know when to listen to yourself. So, for example, I've had people since then say, oh, let's go on a holiday to that country. Now, at first, when somebody made that suggestion, I was like, I knew that I wasn't going to be really okay with going there. And I knew that it would be a trigger point for me. But because I wanted to not let people down, everybody else was really excited about going to that country, then I thought I want to please everybody. So I didn't firstly listen to myself. I didn't put boundaries. I didn't say no to say yes to myself. And so I went with this trip. Now, of course, I knew it was going to be triggering. I knew it was going to take me from a high vibration to a low vibration. But because I wanted to please everybody else, because I didn't have no boundaries with that particular situation, I put myself in a situation that then was very triggering. The environment and the memories and the everything, that I gave myself all sorts of complications of my ability, but also anxiety, and I didn't have a good time. In fact, I probably made everybody miserable because I just was not okay. So actually, if I had said no, not only would I have said yes to myself and I wouldn't have brought myself in a low vibration, but I then also wouldn't have made everybody else's holiday quite miserable because of my lack of engagement and my lack of, you know, not being in the best mood, which then affected everybody else's holidays. So actually, if I'd said no, it would have been the best thing for everybody all round. That's just one example of when you have that little voice, when you know you shouldn't do something because you know it's going to be triggering, and you ignore it anyway because you're an empath, you want to please everybody else, because you can also feel that if you do say no that you're going to disappoint people and you don't want to feel that. That's why boundaries have to be super so important. And it even happened recently when I was on holiday, and most people know my Facebook page. When I was on holiday, something not so nice happened that I witnessed, but before that happened, the suggestion of where it was that we were supposed to go, I didn't really want to go. Now, if I'd listened to myself instead of thinking, oh, well, you know, I'm on holiday and they've made the suggestion, so of course we'll go because they're being nice and I don't want to, you know, to upset anybody. And if I'd listened to myself, I probably wouldn't have seen what I saw on that time, which has now, for me, become another trigger point in my life. Do you understand? And this is why I press on you. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And empath, you have to have boundaries without the fear, just because you may feel, especially precognitively, how disappointed people might be. Sometimes you have to put yourself first, and that's the thing that people don't do when they are empathic. Can you relate? Have you done that? I bet you all have done that. So Natasha says, I've used it in medicine intuitively, in therapeutic touch, with your work. I stayed attuned to God's voice, and that helps me the most. That's a very good, you know, staying connected to source or God or whatever you affiliate yourself with is absolutely a very good way of doing this. A lot of people saying yes, they can relate. Yes, of course you can relate, because that's what empaths do. It's in their nature to want to be supportive, to want to I won't say please people, but it is making sure that the energies of other people don't get in a low vibration. And disappointment is a low vibration, isn't it? So if you can feel that from a lot of people, you're not going to want to do that. But sometimes you've got to not be at the sacrifice of yourself. So that's very, very important, that you set boundaries. The other thing that and I've done this myself, so this is not a telling off at all, but we've all done this if you're empathic, is that because in particular you may suffer from anxiety, or you get people that want to kind of you have more light, I would say, than other people, which means that actually you get some people that then want to kind of take that light from you, which can sometimes have a negative impact on you, which can sometimes lead you into feeling like you are the victim. And so sometimes you can sit there, looking at your reflection of the world and thinking, well, this is happening because I'm highly sensitive, I'm too emotional, I feel everything, I can't control it, and so I'm the victim. Again, that inner dialogue, because you're not the victim, you have a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful gift, and you need to change that inner dialogue greatly. Again, you see my videos on manifesting, what we think about. You need to think about it like a magnet, okay? This is you thinking about life, either positively or negative, and this is a universe, the other side of the magnet. And whatever you think about, you get attracted to, all right? So if you think you're a victim, and that you're always suffering from anxiety, and that this is a problem, it's a curse, and worries me, then the universe is going to go, well, if he or she feels like that, then let's give them some more for them to feel victimized about. Change the dialogue, that you are gifted, that you have a superpower almost, that you're here for abundance and to help others to rise to a greater vibration. And guess what will happen? New alignment, okay? New alignment. And this also goes for what I'm going to be talking about when people say I'm trying to block things, or I detach in myself, or I won't watch something. That all of that is a projection of what you fear. And again, what you fear, it's my hand gone, what you fear, or what you think about the most, so your fear, when it comes into relationship to that, will be what you magnetically attract to. So when you're saying, oh my God, people always, I always pick up on negative people's energies, or anything that is negative, and it really affects me, or people just keep on doing this negative thing, whatever this is, and so I have to do the psychic protection stuff, and I have to do this, because if I don't, then then it just keeps happening. The real truth behind it, to everybody, is actually it's because you fear it that it keeps happening. So you need to change the inner dialogue. Not to fear it. And I need you all to try this now. Give yourself a day, and again, do it at your own pace. And again, you might use the tools that I've said to meditate, and yes, use some of the existing protective things that people recommend, even myself, because, and why do they recommend? Yes, they work. Why? It's because they change your vibration. They align you differently. But what I want to do is to take this a step further and not get you to think, I need this tool, I need this placebo in order for me to realign. Actually, what I want people to do when you're ready is to say to yourself, I am big enough, because I have a gift, not a curse, to actually, I was built to absorb this all. So that when people ask me pretty much all the time, oh Bella, how can you handle taking everyone's energies? Why? Because I absolutely believe that I'm big enough to absorb it all, because that was what I was built to do. And it's also what you all were built to do. It cannot hurt you, it cannot affect you, it cannot make you negative, it cannot do anxiety, because you are a big sponge, basically. A big, beautiful sponge. You are gifted enough to absorb this all. And so once you start believing that, and when you are ready, I want you to put yourself into a situation where you're perhaps you know you're going to speak to somebody who is always negative, you know, or whatever it is. Put yourself in a situation, instead of fearing, instead of thinking, oh God, I need to put a bubble around me. So Annette, example at work, or with the person that's on YouTube, whose name I've forgotten because I can't see it, who does the physician stuff. Instead of fearing and thinking I need to detach it, say to yourself, actually, I am big enough to actually absorb this because I have a gift that was built to absorb this without it affecting me one little bit. Do it. And you'll probably all be scared. First of all, you'll be like, oh my God, I'm going to get ready. I'm going to have this massive attack. But if you truly believe, which is the inner dialogue that you have to have, again, this magnet, you know, aligning, you'll see like it's the biggest gift you can give yourself, that absolutely, absolutely nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. I have to stress that. For somebody who does this every day, hence why when I work with people, and if I'm working with a lot of people, I'm not affected. I'm not affected because I'm a big sponge, and you all need to be big sponges to get me. Again, you need to do that when you're ready. You can go on the journey of the things I've talked about. But that is how you deal with being an empath, is you don't protect yourself, you don't fear it, you don't align to your fear. You recognise that you are beautifully gifted and that your job is to also help people to raise their vibration so that they can use their gifts or enhance their extrasensory abilities. Again, we are in the age of Aquarius where things are shifting and changing. People are becoming much, 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 much more consciously aware of who we are in our human aspect and in our higher self. And you, as an empath, are designed, you are built just like a big, beautiful sponge to be able to absorb that. Now, for some of you, where actually you think, actually, no, I can't, particularly when it comes to things like watching things. So the other things that you should do as well. So put boundaries, know you're a sponge, but also you're still a person. So yes, there will be some things that you will recognise that will be triggering. That's when you need to learn to put your boundaries and you need to say no. Okay? Because again, you're not going to avoid all the time in your human experience everything. But know what triggers you so that you don't get sucked into a lower vibration, so that your magnet changes, because then you're no good to yourself or anybody. When you're there, take the time and the work that's needed, or put your boundaries there so that you can remain at the highest vibration that you can most of the time. Okay? So I know that if I'm not having a particularly good day, I probably won't work because I won't be good to anybody else and I certainly won't be good to me. Boundaries. But then when I'm ready, I'm a giant sponge, guys, and so must you be. So I hope you understand my analogy. So let me just see people's thoughts. Not sure if I have any boundaries. Well, that would yeah. If you don't think you have any boundaries, then you definitely probably need to think about what boundaries you have. And it's been about much more consciously aware, Janine, about the things that you do put up with, that you do allow affect you, and knowing when to say no. Food can definitely affect your vibration, hence why I've talked to people about if you're particularly sensitive, particularly to do with meat as well, probably to avoid that, vegetarian, vegan, because the experiences of it. But I also would say, with what I just said, which is I am a sponge, that actually this is a gift, it will not affect me because I'm aligning differently and better, that actually if you think like that too, then actually what you eat will not affect you either. Janine said you'll have to dig deep on that one. You can dig deep, but I think it's probably just being more aware that when you don't want to do something or you don't like something, that you make more of a conscious note about it. So having a journal actually may help doing that, which is one of my suggestions that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And that says, I will do what I need to do. It makes sense. I was thinking, how am I going to cope with this job? Yeah, you just need to change the message. Your message at the moment is, I can't cope with this job. I can't cope with this job. How am I going to cope with this job? And so the universe is saying, gosh, she's not coping with this job. Let's give her more not to cope with. But if you tell yourself and you know thyself, which is why I said at the beginning, you need to know who you are. When you know who you are, you'll realise you have a beautiful gift and you are built to absorb everything. And you certainly can cope with that more than you realise. So Jessica says vegan. Amy says I'm mostly vegan. Again, but once you overcome that, vegan or not, once you realise that is not going to affect you in that kind of way, you know, you can eat sand. Well, don't eat sand, but you know what I mean. So, manifesting, meditation, all that kind of stuff that I go on about, it's there for a purpose. And the other thing I would say, so my example with what I gave with the holiday place that I don't like to go to because it's triggering for me, you need to do some inner work as well. So whether that was traumas that have happened as an adult or traumas in particular that happens as a child, when you recognize things as an empath that are bringing you in a low vibration, that gives you negative dialogue, that draws much more of the same to you, that you're finding it hard to get out of that loop in that self, is you do need to do some inner work, particularly inner child work. You need to think real hard about the first time you ever had that feeling, that trauma, that experience. Think back to it and go back and have a conversation with yourself and ask that child or that other adult you what it is that they would have needed at that time, and then visually play it out by giving them what they would have needed. So being hugged, being saved, being listened to, whatever this was, you know, being made secure, which is often where fear comes from, is that insecurity. Go back into the inner work so that you can heal. You know, did one of your parents, you know, have a negative way of speaking to you that made you feel like you always had to say yes? Go back and have a conversation with that child and tell them it's okay. They don't have to say yes because you're there to support them. Such a small thing, but it does change vibrationally how you think about yourself as an adult as you try to close a chapter on the things that initially triggered that lower vibration. It will just help you to understand that you have a beautiful gift and you are a big, beautiful sponge that can absorb so much. And then with that, you'll be able to write about, talk about, be a physician, be a teacher, be a doctor, be a healer. In whatever capacity that empathicness comes out in you in your everyday life, mother, father, whatever it is, it will come out in strengths and bounds. And then not only that, you'll be able to recognize other empaths and help them to lift their vibration too. And so on and so forth and so on and so forth. See it like planting little beautiful seeds, little roses, little daisies. You have a gift, and your gift is to raise people's consciousness, to help them to bring abundance, to help them to raise and set their intentions, and to start believing in abundance and not lack. So sorry if I sound like a hippie, and sorry if I sound like I'm pressing it in, but it is so true. It is so, so true. I very rarely have what I call a discombobulated moment, where previously, in a previous life, you know, I wouldn't even be doing this. I would not be doing this because I would have been far too, you know, absorbing everybody's energy, and I would have been, you know, discombobulated. I would have had internal dialogue. I would have got really anxious. It certainly works. Other things that you can do at a real practical level, guys, again, to help you to change the dialogue, to change the frequency so you can be aligned, like I keep saying, is to have a journal. And you need to be strict with yourself. So, you know, because sometimes we can all think, oh yeah, I'm going to start doing something, and then we lose the momentum, like taking a course or, you know, doing a diet or something. We get really enthusiastic and then we kind of lose momentum because, you know, it's repetitive or life gets in the way. And we also live in a day and age now where people want things quick, you know, quick things on Facebook, quick news. Nobody you know, nobody quietens and slows down, and we all do need to slow down, particularly if you are empathic, because too much of that fast stuff is also not good. It's like too much energy too quick. So have a journal where you just spend, when you wake up in the morning, write down the kind of day that you'd like to have, or even write down some things that you had that were really positive in your dream, you know, or write down what you know you sort of going to do, but also how you think it's going to pan out, you know. And even if it doesn't happen, after a while you see that it will. What you're doing very early on in your day is you're starting to set the vibration and the dialogue for it to be much more positive than negative. And then you do the same thing at the end of the day, but this time you look back on the day that you've just had and think of 3 things to be grateful for, or 3 things that made you smile or elevated you, and you write it down. Again, what you're doing in training yourself is to lift your vibration. And you might want to take it one step further and write clearly the things that you put your boundaries in that day, so that you are consciously making yourself much more aware of when you do and when you don't put boundaries. So if you've got it as an item in your journal to say, what did Bella do today that where she put boundaries, even if it's a small thing, it is good, because you're recognizing what it is you need to put a boundary over, and that you actually need to take action. When you can do all of that, you'll just be much more workable in your empathicness. But most of all, you have to start to believe and know that you have a beautiful gift. And actually, by trying to detach yourself or protect yourself, actually means that you have something that you're vibrationally sending out to the universe that you feel like you need to protect. But if you know that you can absorb it, trust me, the things that you fear just go away. They don't seem to happen, basically, because you're not a match to the vibration of it, basically. So that was me. But any questions before I go? Hi Julie, hope you're well. How do I know if I'm empathic? Well, a good question. That I do actually have my free. I have a course, but I have a free 5-day challenge actually that I ran in April, but it's actually been launched to run again on the 3rd of July. And actually, I do help people to identify what their extrasensory ability is. So whether they are empathic or whether they're one of the other 3 Claires that I've talked about earlier in this video. It gets people to sort of start to understand what they are, and if they then want to help to develop that more, they can do. There's some other things that they can do. So you might want to join that, and if you jump to my website, which is bellathesecretpsychic.com, you can sign up for that free 5-day challenge, which will start on the 3rd of July as well. We've got here, I hope you move here. Is he talking about me or somebody else, Amy? Janine says, just curious, when you have a session with someone, do you see the person you're talking to or the people they may be asking you about? Well, quite often when I speak to people, like some people will send me video messages with their question, and some people I've never seen what they look like, not even on their little picture or something. I don't see people like you see me. Sometimes I do, but mainly I don't. I just see people's energies. And I think for those of you who are empathic, you'll know exactly what I mean, because we all have like a signature, like your fingerprint. And the way that I normally explain it to people is a bit like Xavier from the X-Men. So when I'm looking at other people's energies on behalf of somebody else, it's like Xavier when he puts a hat on, and he kind of it's a bit like that. I just know how to find them. That's the best way that I can describe it. Amy says, Jessica says she might move to New York. Oh, you'd like me to move there too? Well, I'm there often enough. My mother lives in New York, so so yes, that's how I do that as well. You're welcome. You're welcome. So everybody, that was me. I was going to say it's short and sweet, but because of the interruption with the first video, it's been about 50 minutes. So I'm going to go, because literally in London today, it is like, my house is like a sauna. It is super hot. I cannot wait for it to rain, because it is like, the city of London is like sweat city right now. So anybody else in England experiencing the same mugginess, it's horrid, isn't it? We don't have the kind of sun that you guys have in countries where the sun is just not like this. But anyway, you all have an amazing weekend, and I will see everybody next Sunday with another live. If you've got suggestions on topics that you'd like me to cover, also just leave it in the comment section as well, because I'd love to know, and I'll try to get through everybody's suggestions as well. And I hope that's been super helpful, everybody, as well as a taster in how you can deal with being an empath. And you all have an amazing day. Take care.